Welcome to the Revenue Builders Podcast, a weekly show featuring B2B sales leaders and executives. Hosted by five-time CRO John McMahon and Force Management co-founder John Kaplan, the show takes guests in the barrel, behind the scenes with the people who've been there, done that, and seen the results. Revenue Builders covers best practices for scaling and growing your business while sharing the pitfalls to avoid. Enjoy today's episode.
Welcome back to another episode of the Revenue Builders Podcast. My name is John Kaplan and my co-host is John McMahon. Today we're joined by a guest who is at the forefront of a radical shift in how we think about the sales process. Many of you know Amanda Kahlow as the founder and former CEO of SixthSense, a company that fundamentally changed the game for revenue leaders by helping us identify intent, knowing exactly who was in the market and when they were ready to buy. After a highly successful 7-year run in building a multi-billion-dollar category leader, Amanda took a 4.5-year hiatus to focus on motherhood and personal growth. But she's back in the arena with a new mission. As the founder and CEO of OneMind, Amanda isn't just looking to help us find the buyer anymore. She's focused on the closing, using what she calls AI superhumans to handle the heavy lifting of discovery, technical demos, and live objection handling. Amanda's resume is impressive. From her early days at Giga Information Group to building a consulting firm for 13 years before SixthSense. She always has been someone who challenges the status quo. Amanda's personal story is an incredible testament to resilience. She moved 18 times in her first 22 years, and not because of opportunities. John McMahon and I are both deeply invested in the mechanics of elite sales execution. Prepare yourself for some straightforward wisdom and some healthy dialogue about where the machine ends and the human factor begins in a complex enterprise sale. We are going to go deep into the world of AI and the superhuman vision. Let's go. Amanda, it's great to see you again. We're really excited to have you on the Revenue Builders Podcast. I thought we'd start with, this journey that you had from SixthSense in really focusing on identifying where the buyers were, now with kind of OneMind with how to close them. But we wanted to talk a little bit more about the genesis of how OneMind really got created. And I think I read somewhere that you were involved with some people that were doing some scientific research on brains and human behavior. And can you share with us a little bit that transition?
Yeah, sure. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me. Yeah, my one line to the market, as cheeky as it sounds, is I started SixthSense to find buyers and OneMind to close them. The genesis of OneMind is really interesting. I actually truly felt I was on the bench. I thought I was I'm done. Had my journey with SixthSense. It was great. Had my exit. I'm on the bench. I'm good. I've had my fill of being in the seat. But I will say being a stay-at-home mom is the hardest job. So I joke that sent me back. But in all sincerity, I was approached by a company who were building talking about the brain, and they had built a face. They had cloned Deepak Chopra and Barack Obama, and they were deep in this AI world before it was hot and before it was a thing and go to market. And they said, "Hey, we need somebody to run this company." And I was like, "Yeah, this isn't for me. I'm not into cloning people. This is not something I want to get involved in." And then over the weekend, I started thinking about what they were doing, and while they were applying it to different business models, and they had built an AI that cloned caregivers for Alzheimer's patients. And I had lost my mom of dementia. And so instantly in that moment, I was thinking, actually have these deep conversations in a way that a human can't and be available all the time. And I quickly switched to, oh shit, who needs a conversation all the time, always available? And I was like, can this do sales? And so I wrote up this massive requirements document, sent it over to the team. And I was like, can it do all these things? And they wrote back and said yes. And then it was a good 9 months of negotiation to like pull the technology out and spin it off and start OneMind. And so that's how we got started, was the genesis of basically looking at this space company and thinking about what the context of the brain could do in the world of go-to-market. I was not going to get into a world I didn't know well. I actually think that's a mistake of a lot of founders, that they try to pivot off into something else because they see a problem. I've been living this go-to-market problem my whole life, and I needed to stay in my lane.
Now, did those people take this same technology and spin it off for other specific use cases?
No, we basically acquired the entire.
You stopped the healing for dementia and you went to sales and marketing? Come on.
Well, we didn't stop that. So actually that project didn't go anywhere. It was more of a pro bono project.
Okay.
To be honest, though, I do think of bringing that back to life. Like we think about right? Like how can our superhumans help in areas across the world? I always look at ways to give back. And that's one of them that's always top of mind for me, is that how can we help caregivers of Alzheimer's and dementia patients get answers and have access and somebody to talk to? Because usually they're caregivers of all kinds of other things. And then all of a sudden they get a dementia patient and it's like, what just happened to me? Like, I don't know what I'm dealing with. And so it's really interesting what it's capable of. But yes, I do think about that.
Very powerful.
Yeah.
Very powerful. Now, when you're one of your main thesis is you've argued that buyers prefer talking to an AI in the early stages. So can we set the context? Because I know you and I were getting you called it spicy. And I'm like, so you were actually telling me that you're going to replace sellers. And I forget what you said. You said, well, if you want to couch it, I can make you feel comfortable on the podcast and say nobody's at risk. And I'm like, no, that's not what I want to do. But like, what are you saying? So start with the thesis on, or the hypothesis on, that buyers prefer to speak to AI in certain situations. Can you highlight that?
Yeah. So really quick, just to share what we do, we're building superhumans that cover the life cycle of go-to-market. A lot of people are working in the AI SDR space. That's not where we are. We do replace and we do take on the AI SDR role, but we're also moving towards taking on the AE role. We do sales engineers, solutions engineers. Our superhumans take the role of a customer success manager. They can give a live demo, they can solution, they can build custom quotes, et cetera. So we're not looking to just outbound and send emails and drive engagement in top of funnel. So that's not our goal. To your question,
you're not an SDR. You don't consider yourself as an SDR replacement tool like many companies are positioning themselves.
It's one of our pieces, but we're the life cycle.
Yeah.
Yes, we can do that. We help with inbound. We don't do outbound. We do a little bit of outbound, but most of what we're doing is inbound. When you have traffic, people coming to your site, our goal is on that first touch. Don't replace the chatbot. Don't replace the SDR. Replace the first call of the AE. Have your sales engineer on that first touch. So imagine somebody comes to your website and they want to learn. They have real problems. Our superhumans are there to go as far technical and as deep as they want to go and to solution with them the way your best solutions engineer would do, to be able to build the business case, the value model assessment on first touch, and have as long of a conversation as they want to have while giving control to the buyers. So our goal is to really think about the full life cycle. And to answer your question, I go direct, and I think the most humane thing, probably the way I put it, is the most humane thing that I can do is to be honest to the world. And I think we're all trying to sugarcoat what's actually happening. I would rather be driving the bus than be run over by the bus. So I have chosen to be in this seat. And yes, there will be many jobs that will be replaced across go-to-market, if not 95% of them in the next 2 to 5 years. I think AE will be the last job to be fully replaced. But on both ends of the spectrum, like we talked about before, the AI SDR, of course, anybody coming inbound, they're just there to qualify, book the meeting, see if you have the right needs, pain, budget, and then they book a meeting with an AE. So we're doing that at scale for some of the largest companies in the world right now. And then on the other side of the spectrum, your sales engineer who has deep technical domain expertise. Think about, if we were applying our superhumans to somebody like a Databricks that sells, they sell their platform to every industry and every vertical. Your solutions engineers and sales engineers can't grok the complexity of all of those businesses, and they're incredibly expensive. And they're only available when you're 17 calls into the sales cycle and you've earned the right. Okay, they have budget, they have need, timing. Okay, now we can bring this person in. So what are we doing to our buyer to make them wait that far in the cycle to get their real questions answered and start actually seeing the solution to their problems? So yes, I am leaning into the fact that yes, we are absolutely replacing humans across go-to-market. I think it's a better world for buyers. And I think there is a better world for humanity as a result of some of these task-based jobs going away.
I think this is really powerful because for me as a buyer, if I'm just thinking about myself as a buyer, and if I'm being honest, although I spend my entire career in go-to-market, I advise go-to-market today. If I'm honest, when I'm interested in something, I have the tools to go out and research. I know what I want to go find out. And I get frustrated when I engage with a company that a bot can only take me so far before I have to talk to an individual. And I would say that majority of the time, I'm frustrated at when that runway runs out.
You're frustrated with the bot or you're frustrated with the individual or both?
No, I'm frustrated. I'm actually frustrated with the experience because most of the experience is a bot up to a certain point and then a human.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not smooth for the buyer. You know, you have to ask the question a number of different ways to. It's like in the old days when I'm trying to get a hold of American Airlines and I'd be like, operator, operator, where I'm screaming in the phone because I want, something to pick up that I want to speak to a human. But it's that intersection of it's not smooth for the buyer right now.
A lot of deterministic bots and even some of the new age AI Q&A bots, 100% it's not smooth because here's why. Their one goal is to book a meeting. 90% of what people are building in this world, which is why I like to say we're not in the AI SDR space, is they're doing it to create top of funnel pipeline to book a meeting with your AE. That is the primary objective and goal of that bot. That bot's goal is not to sell you, is not to solution, it's not to answer your pain and uncover, it's not to find out if you have budget or authority. Its goal is to find out if you're a good enough person, you qualify to talk to, if you're good enough to talk to our AE. So that is the primary, I think, problem with the way most of these bots are set up today and most of these chat bots and things are set up. Our goal is to meet the buyer on that first touch and be the best salesperson with all of the best methodologies. We teach our salespeople one methodology, challenger, solution selling, whatever it happens to be, MedPick, Spice, whatever methodology you get behind and what your leadership feels is, okay, this is the best aligned to our business. And then the entire team learns MedPick. Well, if we think about that, actually not every buying cycle should be using that. Some people we should be using Challenger and some people we should actually just go right. They're ready to buy. And why are we even wasting their time with all these questions when they're ready to go? If it's more of a transactional commercial sale, what if the AI actually could understand the nuance of who you are, what you're trying to accomplish, apply the right methodology at the right time, also know who you are in the buying cycle and the buying committee. We've been talking about this forever, right? Like understanding that all of the buyers in the committee and then having the right message for those buyers. And that's the world. We're not here yet. And so One Mind's not here, but we're building actively towards what we call a context graph for GTM. Well, we would know everything about that individual, all of the stakeholders in the deal. And there would be a specialized superhuman that maintains memory, maintains the context, and drives and uses the best sales methodology to drive to the outcome of not just what you want to sell them, but what the buyer wants to do. So that's kind of like one of those AGI problems that humans have to balance is, I know you're here to learn, I'm here to sell to you, but those things aren't always one for one, right? And you have to kind of navigate that dynamic.
Especially when you say the buy, because that's moving as a consumer from buy to use. So if I show up and I've already bought, this happens to me a lot, and I have questions about the use, and I have questions and insights that I want to have, that if I have to wait for somebody to call me, that's frustrating. And I think there's also a big transition going on, because if you build a system to identify a buyer, I think the definition of buyer is really going to begin to change.
Well, here's what's really broken too. So when we go just in the sales cycle, we're handing off from a chatbot to an SDR, to an AE, to a solutions engineer, a sales engineer, an account executive, account manager, a CSM. Like, holy shit, what the fuck are we doing to our buyers? And that handoff, we lose. Sorry about my language. We lose.
No, I love it when you talk technical like that.
I mean, with the best of intentions, humans can't, you don't have memory between, you don't maintain the context, and you ask the buyer the same thing over and over again. But to your point there, I may have just purchased, like, think of it as like Monday.com is a customer of ours. And right after somebody signs up, our superhumans are there to help onboard you and answer your questions. HubSpot has 4 superhumans live. The first one they started with their SMB business. And what they quickly realized was we trained it to qualify and actually go for the close and drive conversions and drive to paid. But people have support questions and you can't change their flow. And they're still talking to that same superhuman. So my goal is not to be a superhuman in one role. We have these roles because humans have time, capacity, and recall limitations. But our superhumans supersede across all of the roles because your buyer is the same buyer across that whole journey. And you want to maintain a consistent experience. And that ultimately is serving the market. And if you're serving your market and you're serving your customers, I believe that's what's going to make us win. My goal is not to help companies grow. That's a byproduct of what we're doing. My goal is to help. Let's make a better experience from first touch all the way to renewal, upsell, cross-sell, et cetera.
Amanda, I think we need to do the audience. Right now, I feel like this is a good conversation, but we need to probably share with the audience, like, when they interface with OneMind, that they're interfacing with someone called Mindy, that actually looks like a video of a real person. Maybe you want to expand on that so they get a better feel for
experience.
What happens with the user experience.
Yeah, so we do have a face, but you don't have to. So some of our customers don't use the face. We have one very large, the largest business social networking company that will never use a face because they support humans, right? So we have other customers like Monday, for example, they use a llama. They don't use a face, right? So they don't want to use a face. So it's a face, voice, and then it's really a brain. So it's maintaining the context across the life cycle of the customer and taking actions so she can do things in conversation. I can look up who you are. I can know what I want to do. I can build an ROI calculator with you. I can build a business case. In that conversation, take action and do things like a human would do in a sales cycle. She can give a live demo. She can onboard you. She can share the screen. She can click around on the screen. She can join a Zoom call. So imagine her being, actually, I should have brought her onto the call. Imagine her being here, and I could, if we take a pause, I could go grab her. But she could be on this call and she's just waiting for me to call on her. Like she is like in servant mode where she's basically, okay, when I call on you and you're in passive, and when I say, hey, Mindy, you jump in and give the demo, you jump in and answer the questions, or train her to ask the hard questions. Okay. So she just listened to the whole call. Hey, Mindy, did I miss anything? And she'd say, hey, John, do you have budget? Are you the economic buyer? Right? Like ask the questions that your salespeople are afraid to ask. So you can train her to play any role you want her to play, aggressively or passively.
So now every company sells something into a different domain. And as you explained, you could even have an SC or a technical person with domain experience. So what does it take to implement OneMind if I have a very specific domain that I'm in? Can you walk us how that happens?
Yeah, it used to take a really long time. So I'm not going to lie. So our onboarding used to be 4 months. In our last, call it 20 customers, we got it down to 4 weeks. So now it takes about 4 weeks. And a lot of what we've like doubled down on is like the automatic knowledge ingestion, keeping it up to date. We scrape your website to start with. So let's say, for example, if we sold to Cisco tomorrow, we would scrape their entire website, know everything about their product that's on their website. We'd also link into your Seismic, your HighSpot, your Letter AI, whatever you have for your sales enablement docs. So give us your core pitch decks. What do your sellers use to go out and sell? And then tell us, what are your goals? What are you trying to do with what are you trying to do with the superhuman? What are your buyer's goals? And then we go away and build the AI, the superhuman. What systems does she need to link into? Some of the hardest part is just linking into all the other. So if you're using this for ticket management or anything else, we have to create those integrations for you and make sure that she's calling it in real time and can bring it into conversation. And then we go live with the superhuman. And we usually start with one role. So even though we do span the life cycle, we'll say, okay, we'll start with on your website. Then we move to say, okay, let's bring her on the call as a sales engineer. And let's use her for your PLG motion. I think some of the biggest value is where there is no business model for a human. So you're not even thinking about where you can put her because these are commercial deals. They were $500. I would never put a human. Put a superhuman where there is no business value. Let us prove it there. And then we can talk about taking on some of the actual human tasks and roles.
Okay. And then how do you know about different buyers that come in? How can you figure out this is who this buyer is, and then have the AI agent understand specifically what questions to ask that person based upon their either domain experience, their political, ranking inside the company, what their title is, all those things. How do you have the agent qualify that quickly to understand who they're speaking with?
Yeah, well, I mean, with my background at SixthSense, like all of the anonymous IP to company, right? So we do that. So we have a partnership with Zoom Info right now, where we know who the company is that we're speaking with, but we have her ask, just like you would have a salesperson. Hey, who is this? What company do you work for? What's your role? Those are the first key questions she asks. What are the pain points you're trying to solve across your funnel? And then she digs in and she's answering your question, but she keeps going, keeps digging to find the next thing, just like you would teach a seller to do so that she can solution in the moment. So she's doing exactly what a seller would do if they got a cold call.
So just to educate the audience a little bit, I was an advisor to Drift, which actually used SixthSense. So what would happen is, what Amanda's referring to is when someone came onto the website, even if they didn't have any affiliation with that person, Drift could automatically understand who was on the website through a stack of layered data sources. So what they would do is they quickly go out and understand from SixthSense, Clearbit, Demandbase, Crunchbase, you just named another one. And they could quickly find out their company name, their industry, how many employees, what the headquarters were located, and everything through revenue. They'd understand all that stuff. And then what they would do is they'd piggyback on the cookies that tools like Marketo or HubSpot had. And now Drift would, and I think SixthSense was doing the same thing. Now they dropped their own cookie, and now they basically, they had all the information that they needed on you. Is that a good explanation, Amanda?
Yeah, and they tie it all together. They de-anonymize, right, as much as possible at the individual level, which is more at the cookie level, and at the IP level, which is more at the account level, to try to tie back together, okay, who is this that I'm talking to? So I know, and for us, we're not just using that as signal to then hand to a person to say, hey, rep, go call this. But we use that for our superhuman to say, what's the conversation she should have? If she's talking to a
you're
CRO,
looking at intent. You might be looking at intent. So your tool's probably also looking at, okay, they came to what their behavior was when they came to the website. What pages did they look at? How long were they on the website? How much did they scroll? Did they come back 3 or 4 times? And all of that gives you some sort of behavioral intent, right?
Yeah. And I'd say, I wrote a post recently that intent data is dead in some ways, that I believe as we know it, right? So the world as we know it of doing research in a B2B marketplace world where you're going out and getting third-party research and you're trying to figure out what products you want, that's just not happening anymore. And I do believe that whether it's through superhumans or others, that our web experience that we own on our domain will be a talking face of your company. So it will be AI that can represent your brand, can represent your products, can solution, can give the demo. It's archaic what we make people do. If you think about a website that has 100,000 pages on it, like seriously, we make people search and try to find the answer to their questions.
Right.
That just is so counterintuitive to how humans operate. So we had to, because there was no other way. And now there's another way. And the way is conversational. It's as simple as like, it's in the conversation. It's asking you why you're here. Why did you show up today? Okay, you just came to learn. Great. Let me help you learn. You want to get something done? Let me help you get it done. You just signed up for the free trial and you can't get it working. Let me get that working. And oh, by the way, I'm going to try to upsell you to a paid contract, right? So meet the buyer where they are and make it easy. Don't make them have to schedule. So one of the problems with humans is we have to schedule. We have time limitations. That is like a massive limitation. We have capacity limitation. We have recall limitations. All that will go away. And when people realize that they can actually trust AI more than they can trust humans, which I think we're still crossing that chasm of trust. Like people still think, oh, it's going to try to sell me something and it's going to hallucinate. My favorite thing is when people talk about AI hallucinating, I just look at them. I mean, do your sales reps hallucinate? And how often do they do it? And they do it nefariously to get the deal done. They know they're doing it to move the deal forward. As soon as AI hallucinates once, you better be damn sure it's never going to make that mistake again.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Now, Amanda, it works when someone I just want to make sure this is education for me and the audience.
Yeah.
So it works, as you said, when life cycle of inbound, right? Do I ever get it involved if my sales reps are going outbound and they're now engaged in a sales process? Is there a way in which it works then?
Yeah. So net new outbound, you can put it in the outbound. So think of it as like, I can send you a piece of content, a white paper, a webinar to sign up for at a specific point in time, or I can send you my superhuman and we can have a conversation. Let me bring this to life. Like, for example, we were selling to Cognizant a while back, and I remember thinking, they have these massive sales cycles, like these massive deals. It's not transactional at all, but they have all this great research and content. Well, what if you could just have a conversation about that content and apply it to their business in the most nuanced way? That's what the superhuman can do. So you can put it in your outbound, but what, to your point about in sales cycles. So now a deal that's in flight, imagine putting it in your deal room. She has access to all of the ROI calculator, the business proposal. She has access to everything that's happening across that deal and your CRM and everywhere where that stage of the deal is in, where it's blocked. So now when she gets on the phone, and somebody engages with her, she can say, oh, I see that Harry is blocking this because of ABC. So I'm going to try to apply this tactic in conversation in a nuanced way, in a way that humans can't even do. I mean, I know when I'm on sales calls right now, I'm, starting to transition off of them, thankfully, because we're moving to a mode where I'm like, actually told the sales team today, I can't be on your calls anymore. I can't be on 20 calls.
You're still going to be on calls. No matter. You're just going to be on bigger deals. That's all.
Right. I just can't be on every first call as I was before.
Don't think you're not going to be on calls.
It was embarrassing. I knew nothing of their business. I looked at the prep talk 30 seconds before because I'm late to the call because I'm running over from the previous one and I can't keep up. And of course the reps are doing a better job at that, but even if I read the doc, I forget. Like my memory is like a fishbowl. Like I'm just like, I am going around the fishbowl as fast as I can and I'm doing the best I can. And it's not that I don't have the best of intentions to have that information in my brain. And a swivel chair doesn't work. Like all of the AI companies that are building it over here, I can't talk to you and read this. Like even my prep for this podcast today, I like to always over prepare for whatever I'm going to get into if I have time. I have some notes. Like I'm like, oh, you're going to ask me about this book. Oh, well, these are the chapters of that book. There's no way I can look down at that piece of paper and talk to you guys. It's not going to work.
Now,
can we clarify a little bit, Johnny, on, because one of the statements that you made is the buyer's going to be the same. So the buyer's going to be the same throughout the journey. And now we're starting to talk about complexity of solutions that might necessitate multiple buyers, which is probably 80 to 90% of our audience. Is they're going out into environments with the reality that their solutions are multi-threaded. So where are we now in its ability to, and that's typically an outbound. It might start as an inbound. Mm-hmm. So do you have to meet a buyer where they are? Somebody might start as a user of technology and inbound to a company. Then there's going to be a need for an outbound mechanism. Walk us through kind of where you're at now and where you see it going. And I know I'm not going to hold you to the predictive side of it, but we're having some pretty bold conversations here. I just want to see where you think it's going.
I mean, I think it's going to the place where it knows exactly where you are in the stage of that account. It knows all the different buyers now, I actually don't think we're in a world where buyers are the same. I actually think we're going to move to an agent to agent world as well. So the key in everything right now, it is human to agent, human to superhuman. I do believe we're going to move to a world where it's agent to agent. You have agent buyers and agent sellers that have to talk to each other. And so in
And
order
that agent buyer is going to make a
yes,
budget commitment on a sale.
absolutely. Maybe not money, but like
That was my ask.
oh. Yeah, no. I mean, no, I don't know. I mean, maybe. I haven't
Well,
thought
let's
about
play
that.
that out though, man.
Yeah.
It goes that far and there's no ROI or there is an ROI and somebody has to back up. We do all this work. Okay, it's faster, but we get to the point where somebody needs to make a commitment of money to it. What's your thought on that? Is it going to back up from there?
I think it's going to get to the point where it's going to say, hey, I've done all this research. Here are all the players in the space. Here's the cost. Here's your needs. Here's your business. This is all the nuances of your business because every buyer thinks that they're unique. And in some worlds, they are, right? So it looks at the nuances of their business. And the agent comes back and says, this is what I recommend after having all this information. And this is why. And these are the trade offs. And I think there will be the final mile. I do think there's going to be a final mile with most jobs and roles and functions.
Define that. You talk about that a lot. Define that.
Yeah. So I think there is like even in the sale, that's where I think the final mile today, the AE is the last one. It's that there is a new somebody does have to sign off on it today. I don't think I can get my head around that not being there, but I actually think somebody else smarter than me is thinking about how to make that go away, where humans don't have to be in the loop. But I think there is a like, okay, I'm going to check off like, yes, this is the right decision and all these logic trees made sense. You just presented the case. You made it super easy for me. You presented it in a way that I want to consume it, whether it be like in a podcast format or you presented it in a business case or whatever it is. So I do think there will still be like the nuance of the human needing to, but the human is going to be checking off across multiple things. Like even in go to market, you're not going to have sales, marketing, customer success. You're going to go to market. And the CRO will truly be the CRO. I think one of the things, like a lot of CROs right now are really just ahead of sales. Like, let's be honest, they don't run customer success and they don't run marketing, but we get like leveled in titles and they need the title. And so there they have the CRO title. And so I think it will actually be a revenue generating role that owns the full life cycle of the customer journey.
We could actually start that now without AI. Like, no, I'm serious. The burden of all of those roles that you just said and the inability to make decisions inside of a company in a go-to-market sense. I mean, I don't want to be damning, but that's half the problem.
Well, and then the other half of the problem is everybody, I think a lot of things think people aren't getting right with AI today. And I'm doing this as well. Like I do want all of my employees to be building agents and know how to use AI. And I lean into the fact that I want them to replace themselves. But it has to be top down, not bottoms up. And asking people to go and like figure out how to do the task that you're doing today and figuring it out for themselves versus at the C level saying, this is what we're going to do. And I have to change systems and processes and throw away my old playbooks. It is fucking scary to throw away your old playbooks and to think that the metrics that I'm going to walk into by board meeting are not what we were looking at before. Like we need to be thinking about ARR per employee. We need to be thinking about the costs and the spend, what that spread looks like and the lifetime value of the customer and who's responsible for that lifetime value, not just responsible for revenue, not just responsible for customer success. And how do we measure that across the organization? I think all those things are going to shift, but that it takes bravery and I think the people who lean into it first right now are the ones that are going to have first mover advantage. And they're going to win. Yeah.
I want to just highlight something that I really, really respect that you do. You're talking about the top down, but you're also encouraging people from the bottom up. I'd like you to make a statement to the audience that and you really do it in your company, figure out ways to automate what you do and create additional opportunities for you in the company. Now, you put your money where your mouth is. Can you speak about that? Because I think it's outstanding.
I mean, I encourage people to replace themselves in their job every day. And if you do, I will find you another seat at this company. And I haven't gotten approval yet from our board, but I would like to get to the place where there's something creative where we can forward vest your equity if you fully replace your job. meaning that job had that equity assigned to it. Now let's put you on a new salary and a new equity package. That to me makes a shit
Brilliant.
ton of sense, right? Because now I've brought my cogs down. And I'm putting you into another role. For example, I have somebody who was our solutions engineer. His job used to be to join the calls with our customers. He doesn't do that anymore. We don't need that. Our AI, our superhuman, joins the calls. So what his job now is to train the superhuman, collect the information, make sure we're getting it from all the different places, and he's maintaining the brain of the superhuman that is doing his job. So it is a very different job. He's not forward facing. He's not customer facing anymore. He is actually building the brain that is replacing himself. And he loves it. And then
I
he's
think
like,
you had an example of like a next door neighbor that was a
oh,
data scientist that I read somewhere, and now he works in the company.
yeah, he's not at the company anymore. But yes, he was a data scientist and he came to us, and then we turned him into a prompt engineer, and he's still doing that on to his next company. And he said, look, I can't find a job as a data scientist. What should I do? And I was like, find a new career. Like, this is not, that job doesn't exist anymore. And so, we were early when he came on. So, no negativity. He was amazing, but he came on and we taught him how to do like prompt engineering. And now
that's what he does for a living.
That's what he does. Like, now he's moved into a new role. So I think that's why I say, like, yes, it sounds harsh that we're going to be replacing all these jobs and that the job as you know it today is gone. Like, it is gone sooner than you know it. But the worst thing that we can do for people is not to be honest with them. Like, this is happening, like it or not. No matter what any of us say, if I don't build it, somebody else is going to. It's happening.
Now, Amanda, in listening to you, which makes sense, where there shouldn't really be any sales or marketing or client success because it's all one. It seems like if I probably took a look inside your company because of what you're doing, you've probably moved. I would imagine that there's a lot more people on the back end, like more client success and implementation engineers for a product like yours than there is actually sales reps and even marketing.
Well, okay,
I'm
so
just
I'll tell you
listening to what you're saying and making an intuition call here.
Yeah. Yes and no. So, like I said, we haven't replaced the AE yet. So we have AEs.
Okay.
But Mindy, our superhuman, has sourced 78% of our opportunities that have turned into close one. So she has been the top of funnel, the outbound. She's like brought them in, had the conversation, and she's taken many deals like pretty much to the finish line on her own, like engaging with CROs and CMOs of public companies. Nonetheless, like having 90-minute conversations with, for example, I don't think he'll mind my sharing this, but the CRO of Ultrix is a customer now. He literally had his first call was with Mindy. He had a 90-minute conversation, then handed it to a CMO. She had a conversation. I got on a phone call with him a few days later, and I think I said 5 words on that call. He's like, here are all the ways we're going to use your superhuman. I was like, I was literally an order taker. I was like, okay, this is great. She did everything. She handled his objections. She solutioned with him. She shared everything that she was possibly capable of. She shared her boundaries of where she can't go. And then when she didn't know the answer, she's always, I don't have the answer to that. I haven't been trained on that. Ask the human. So she's very good at like keeping to the guardrails. But she was able to go all the way. So yes, we have it for inbound for the website. She joins calls. So our sales engineers, like I was saying, solution engineers, she's doing that job. She's also now starting to onboard our customers. So we're using it as our CSM to onboard
on
customers.
The back end.
Yep. So now let me show you how to build a superhuman. Let me walk you through the onboarding process. Here's how you get the content ready. Here's how you build the goals. Here's what you do. Come ask me anytime. I'm here. I remember our last conversation. I pick up right where we left off, so she doesn't start over again because humans forget. And she's helping move customers through the journey. Where she's not yet, she's not the AE yet. So we still have AEs. She's also not the forward deployed engineer that's helping with some of our integrations, like when we get more custom integrations. So we're still working on that. Yeah. And eventually she's going to be creating the ROI calculator. She'll be creating the proposals for our customers. So she'll join the call, hang up from that call. 5 seconds later, you have a proposal in your inbox if you ask for a quote, because she's going to create it. So we're actively working on that right now. But absolutely, we are trying to replace as much of our go-to-market team as possible with superhumans.
Okay, let's fast forward now. We're going to fast forward 3 years. And I'm going to ask you for some of your predictions. Some of this I think is rhetorical, but what happens to the SDR role?
It's gone.
Gone, right.
It's gone.
Okay, You said that, and I'm only going off of what you said, that there will be still some AEs remaining. What happens to the skill set of the AEs that are remaining?
It's the strategic seller.
Yeah,
It's the
highly skilled,
highly
Well,
skilled,
let's talk about
emotionally.
some of those skills that you're highlighting because we know you're going to work on trying to automate them. So what are they?
EQ versus IQ.
Okay,
Sure.
good one.
Okay. Knowing how to navigate the org and the nuances of the product and like what people are really asking at the final mile, trying to get to the next person, knowing how to do that. I actually think some of those things can be automated too. We just haven't started to attack it yet, but it's going to be that final mile with the big deals. Like you're still going to have executives in seat that want to talk to somebody and they're going to be there to have the conversation. But here's what I promise is going to happen. This is what I am so sure this is going to happen. Buyers are going to demand that you have a solution like this, whether it's OneMind or something else, because they want accuracy, they want information immediately, they want depth that humans can't offer. Humans can't go deep, especially if it's a deep technical product, right? They literally tap out. You do not get to have your CTO on every call. Doesn't happen. Right. So we tap out, even solutions engineers tap out at a capacity limitation. And when buyers see that they can do this with other products, they'll expect it. And so they'll move from a world of I can get my answers anytime and I trust them more than I trust the human.
Okay. And then what happens to marketing people?
I still think we have like storytellers and brand. That's important. I think some of that content, they can create the content and create the ideas, but it's that final mile of like what really aligns to our values.
But
what do we
Mindy
want
should be able to create content. If you have
Yeah,
all
she
the
can. She
domain,
can.
if I
Yeah,
gave
that's
you
her
all
thing.
my domain knowledge, why can't
Totally.
Mindy
She could
create
create
my
all
content?
absolutely.
Right.
Like she'll create.
I think
hard.
where
Yeah.
it's going to slide. It's just like we said before. It's going to slide. The scale is going to slide from sales down through marketing and more towards client success than anything else. There's
Absolutely.
still, and again, Mindy could eventually replace all the CS people. But if I looked at the company of the future just 3 years from now, that's what it's more going to look like.
Okay, so let me play the grumpy old guy. Ready?
Yeah, let's
I'll
go.
play the grumpy old guy.
That's not possible. You're
gonna be
not
freaking
grumpy and
hard. It's
not
not going to
old.
be hard for you to do.
Well, I just listened to um I just listened to one of my favorite podcasts, the All In podcast.
Yeah, that's great.
And in that podcast, they talked about this very scenario, this one scenario about the movement actually going from the cloud to like on-prem.
Right.
And we're talking about sucking in all this data and we're talking about all this amazing things that Mindy can do. And where are the freaking alarm bells on security and privacy and like and you have experience with that, Amanda. So where is the line going to be? Because there's a lot of people freaking out right now about, okay, I love this idea of, all this agentic AI and turning into like CRM into the like legacy infrastructure and having agentic AI. But then there's all this massive movement of data. Where's it going to go? How are we going to protect it?
So yes, we could move some people, I think, for regulated industries and where you have healthcare data or anything else, then maybe you do move to an on-prem world versus in the cloud. But if you remember back to when we moved from on-prem to the cloud, like that transition, everybody's great. Oh my God, it's in the cloud. Anybody can get at it. Like I'm old enough with lots of gray hairs to remember those days of saying like, no way is this going to work, right? Like people thought Benioff was like ridiculous and that this is not that he's never going to get the financial services industries, right? He's never going. Guess what? He has the financial services industries, and guess what? We can lock that down. Yes,
I think he's also the most at risk right now with agentic AI and where the data is coming from and how the data is going to be used. I don't want to say that for him, but like those systems.
Yeah, I mean, I think we went from a world of the systems of record, so the Salesforces of the world, to the systems of engagement. So you have like the SixthSenses and Outreach and Salesloft and others that are doing engaging, but they're also, those still are based on the premise of centered around a human engagement. So how can I make humans more successful? And now I think we're working into like the autonomous systems of outcome, like where it actually can take action and work on behalf of your business. And that's the future. And so in that world, we don't need structured data the way we needed it before. It knows the question I'm going to ask before I ask it. It's building my board deck and answering the questions and doing the thing, and I don't have to have things in a structured manner. So I do think those legacy systems are the most ripe for disruption right now.
No doubt about it.
And, we're seeing it even in like the SaaS companies, like even in the systems of engagement are struggling right now, because why do we need to remind me why we need to do that? Remind me why I want to hire a bunch of humans. Like you could say, so I think, had people say to me, well, if your superhuman's roughly $100,000, I could just hire a human. Like, why wouldn't I just like hire a human in this role? She's doing the job at, like, for example, specific example at HubSpot, their one superhuman is doing the job of 89 SDRs and 19 sales engineers. So yeah, it's one superhuman, but it's working the capacity of 89 SDRs and 19 sales engineers.
But
right.
they were also talking about the reason they were thinking that some of the movement maybe to on-prem was for two reasons. One, which was data security.
Yep.
People basically, like the large language models, essentially stealing your information and remodeling it was number one. Number two was the use of tokens and burning down credits.
Big time.
Where a lot of the users today are essentially the usage of the tokens is more expensive than the human themselves. So they were saying, maybe we want to move it to on-prem. We don't have to worry about burning down credits off the cloud.
Yeah. I mean, there is a huge trust factor, which I don't have the answer to, of the LLMs. And like, I think in regulated industries and others and healthcare industries, it's going to be harder to make that leap and put all that data over. But in go to market, I mean, I don't want to breach nobody wants to breach any sales data, but nobody's going to die as a result of it. Right. So whole financial systems aren't going to be corrupt as a result of it. So there's trade-off, and that we have to, we have to trust that the enterprise license, as they say, they're not going to use that data per the license to retrain. If they do, and they lose that trust, then nobody will be on OpenAI anymore. So like the other side of it is like, okay, if they break that trust that they have, because then
how would you know?
Yeah, how would you? We're at that point.
I mean, that's what they were pointing to. They were saying, Altman's burning $1 billion a quarter, and he's going to have to make up that money somehow. So he's going to have an application for everything, and he could basically use your data or any of your data and remodel it.
Well, I just bought property right next to him in Napa. So I will go next door, knock on the door, and ask him. I am now his neighbor in Napa, which I am. Can
we do another podcast with you and him? Well, let's do it.
I got to get in. He doesn't know who I am right now, but I literally just texted a friend.
Hey, we're talking about economics, though. We'd be remiss if we didn't say, like, the SaaS apocalypse, everything that we're hearing right now in the usage and the predictable usage and people, moving from seats to consumption. And so how are you going to price this thing? And now I kind of getting the feeling you're talking about fractional superhumans or whatever. So like, how are you going to price this?
It's not a problem for my business model, because I am going after higher value humans. So we are like 1/100th of a human. Now, where I do think you're seeing this, and it's like actually hard to cost justify it, is in the support roles. Where it's gotten the most traction is across support. And those people, you can outsource that to other places and get that job for $20,000 a year. You cannot hire a sales engineer for under $250,000. And that would probably be a very cheap sales engineer, right? So when I'm going after these high value jobs, even an SDR, they're making, 60 to 100 grand a year, but the output that I have is exponential, and the calls don't have to be as long. So we're, when we think about our time, when she's on a call on average 8 to 12 minutes for our customers, which is wildly long if you think about compared to a chatbot, right? So like when we move from like a chatbot world to the world of a superhuman, and then like I said, we have outliers of customers who are really engaged and they're talking to it for 92 hours. Now, you could always cut that off and say, we don't want you to talk anymore, but that it's really our model and pricing. And we do have a component of usage and outcome based, but the margins are there exponentially for us because we're actually replacing high value jobs. So that's not a challenge for us, but I do see it as a challenge for, the decagons and
So you're
CROs.
going to price it by the role and then how will it be measured?
Yeah, measured on the outcome. Like we're measured, we can be measured on, is she actually driving revenue for your business? Is she shortening sales cycles? And she increasing your ACV? When people talk to the superhuman, is your business doing better as a result? Is your NPS score going up because they're getting answers to their questions? For like Monday, are you able to convert more people from free to paid? Very simple. Like for that whole PLG world, like one of the most obvious use cases of this, everyone at leave sales led alone. Fine. You don't want to replace any of your sellers. Great. Keep your sales led motion going the way they are. Then you have your PLG motion, which is the self-serve. But what about everything in the middle? That messy middle has been left alone, right? To try to figure it out. Your commercial deals. So AI can have like your buyers still have questions and have nuances that they want answered and they want to learn how to use something. You can put a superhuman and actually provide a human-like experience when they're in your process in the middle. So I call that AILG, right? So like your PLG, really easy, self-serve, token based, like quick, turn it around. You've got sales led, you go up to strategic accounts, but everything in the middle is just waiting for this to happen because what you get is you get a lower level. Okay, fine. We'll put some commercial AEs, but those commercial AEs aren't your most strategic and aren't your best, but don't you want your best resource on every call? And so it's a really easy like business justification and value model justification for our customers. So I never get stuck up on that because our cost is like, HubSpot has 89. What if I had to hire 89 SDRs to do the job of their superhuman?
Yeah. Now, if the interface let's go back to the interface which I saw on your website is Mindy. So I'm looking at a video and I'm talking to Mindy and she's, recounting exactly what I said and what she said, the entire conversation. If it's not Mindy that I'm interfacing with through video, what does the interface look like then? Am I just speaking and engaging essentially with a chatbot by voice?
Yeah, it's a chatbot by voice with a waveform that oscillates as you're talking. So you can see that it's hearing. So it's really what's important is the AGI stuff of knowing when you're listening and when you're hearing and that she's going to talk. So we need to communicate that back to the buyer that she's going to talk. Like she's like processing her thoughts. Like she's about to give like a really big demo. She'll say, give me a second. I'll pull that up. It's the only time there's like any real latency and nobody has a problem waiting for it when she's about to give a live demo. Like
sure.
You can wait for a sales engineer to book the meeting through your AE and get to it, or you can have the live demo right now. And you'll wait 3 seconds versus, 1 second on average on turn.
Curious.
But
can I have the Johnny, you don't know this, but I got introduced to Amanda by a seller that we were recruiting.
Sorry.
That we lost to Amanda and her company. So you obviously aren't going to need Garrett anymore. Can you
have Garrett back?
Can we have Garrett?
No, because I'll find another job for Garrett.
Hey, couple things.
I just think after this job because our sellers right now just had an influx of pipeline like you wouldn't believe. So Garrett is going to not need to work very soon.
That's amazing. I mean, you consider yourself a spiritual warrior. Can you kind of tell us what you mean by that? And if you can, your background when you're growing up, what happened to your family and your brothers and what they're doing technology. It's just really an amazing story. Could you share it with us really quick?
Yeah. So I grew up in 22 houses before I was 18, drank powdered milk and block cheese. I grew up with a single mom. I saw my dad on the weekends, but they were divorced. But I look back at my childhood, you think one of my brothers or I would be in jail or something be totally wrong based on the way that we grew up. But my mom gave us something like an incredible amount of love and belief in ourselves that we could do anything we wanted in this world. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. Like being a latchkey kid, having to fend for myself, some days not being able to not have dinner. There were times when we shat in buckets in the winters. But I'm thankful for it because nothing's going to break me. Like I got this and there's very little that has made me have this very tough exterior. I'm actually really soft on the inside. I care deeply about people. But there's little that's going to shake me. And it also makes me work so hard. So it's also part of I worry for my kids that they're not going to have the resilience that I had and the trauma that I had. And what is that going to mean for their future and how it's going to shape their character. And I think about that every day. So when I think about my not being there for them, because I'm a single mom, I've got 2 young girls and I'm gone 90% of the time, but I actually think that trauma is good for them, that mommy's not here, because it gives them something that's not stable because they have such a fucking good life. So I'm actually thankful.
But you made a big decision, Amanda, which a lot of our listeners share with us, especially the female listeners, around, hey, SixthSense, I'm going to make a decision. I'm going to step away. I'm going to raise a family. And can you just talk a little bit about the getting out of the game or whatever that people would say? But how did you do it? And then you come back with a vengeance. And I'm not saying you come back from like traumatic being. I mean, it's amazing how you speak about motherhood. I'm saying that you've like roared back into industry. Could you just kind of give some people some spirit out there and how that might be done?
Yeah. I stepped away from SixthSense because I had challenges. Like the company was struggling in certain ways. I think we had the best product on the market. We needed more money. And I knew that if I brought somebody else on, we would get that influx of cash. And so I sacrificed myself for the greater good of SixthSense. It was the hardest decision I ever made in my life. It caused a lot of deep reflection. But I took 4.5 years off. I really wanted to have kids, went down the adoption path. And then I also had my own biological child. And that 4.5 years, I played a lot of golf. I had a goal and I hit had my best round of golf. And then I haven't touched my golf club since. But I think that time just gave me, and being a mom gave me perspective. And I literally went to bed. Like I like to say, I went to bed when COVID hit. So I didn't see the whole world transition to online. I came back and I'm like, oh my God, what is going on? What is this? I didn't check LinkedIn. I didn't do anything. Like I was literally under a rock focusing on my children. But I think that time off is what is making me so powerful right now. Like I got to have perspective, really get in alignment with what I care about, what my values are, why I show up every day. And yeah, of course it's to make money. We all are, but it's also to serve. I have an obligation to women and to girls to be successful. Being part of less than 1% of enterprise founders that are women, I have to make it. I don't have a choice. Like I have to fucking make it for them. And so I will do everything I can. And it's for my girls to do that. But it also, I think, makes me more empathetic and have a softer side and really genuinely care about humans. So yes, I'm replacing jobs, but I genuinely love the people that I work with and for. And I think there's a better world on the other side of all this. I just don't have all the answers to what that world is.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Johnny, what did we miss? We got to let Amanda go.
I got to go. I'm getting
you got to go. Good to have you, Amanda. Thanks, Amanda.
Killed it.
Thanks to everyone for listening to another episode of the Revenue Builders Podcast. Thanks, Amanda.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you enjoy the content, please subscribe, rate, and review the show to help us reach more people. This show is brought to you by Force Management, where we help companies improve sales performance, executing the growth strategy at the point of sale. Check out forcemanagement.com for more information.